Hello everyone and welcome to Flight Club. My name is Klaus Leopold and I am the co-host of the show. Co-host means there's at least a second person, and this person is Cliff.
Hello everyone. As Klaus said, my name is Cliff and I want to welcome you all to Flight Club this evening. We're very excited to have our guests joining us all the way from São Paulo in Brazil. And they're going to be talking to us about all kinds of wonderful things. We'll come back to them in just a second. I just want to do a couple of logistical things before we get started. So quite exciting. Today we actually just crossed for the first time 500 subscribers on our YouTube channel. You would think that with 500 subscribers I would know how to say YouTube, but yes. So we have just over 500 subscribers, and of course this is very exciting. For those of you who don't know so much about YouTube, actually at 1,000 subscribers, this is when we start to unlock a bunch of cool community features, and there's a bunch of cool things that start to show up in the chat, and you can have badges and icons and all kinds of cool stuff like this. So of course, I remind you, as everybody already knows, the first rule of Flight Club, this is to talk about Flight Club. So I would very much appreciate if you can tell your friends, tell your family, tell your auntie and uncle and so on about Flight Club, and come and join us, and of course hit the subscribe button. I will remind you again a little bit later as well. So cool. Thank you to everybody who's subscribed so far. Anyway, enough about subscribers and my mispronunciations of YouTube. I would like to introduce our guests. So, as I said, we have with us, I will say it as I would say it in English, but I've been trying to practice my Portuguese pronunciation. So we have Henrique in English, or Henrique if you say it in slightly bad Portuguese accent. Henrique and I used to actually work together at Spotify, and back in the day we used to sit around chatting about flight levels actually and how we could use this inside the company, as we were chatting about earlier. Henrique, do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself quickly?
Hello everyone, yes, my name is Henrique in Portuguese, or in Sweden, Henrique, super difficult to, to pronounce it, it's hard. But yeah, it's a pleasure to be here with you guys. And as Cliff mentioned, we worked together at Spotify in the same tribe, right? And after that, we moved to other tribes. But it was fun to talk about flight levels there in the company. And even after that, we kept discussing the topic. And now it became like the Flight Level Academy. Oh, I'm super proud of this. And yeah, that's me. I've been working with IT companies for a long time. And currently I'm back to Brazil and working this digital transformation thing that we're going to be discussing soon.
Very cool. Thank you. So welcome to you. Then, of course, in the other corner, we have João. And I was learning how to say this. It's a little bit like how you say São Paulo, like it's São Paulo. It's like in the nose a little bit. João, like something like this.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
So for those of you who don't know João, he has not only been an amazing sketch artist for multiple of the flight clubs. He's drawn sketch notes and so on. He does this as teaching on the side. He's an artist of sorts and really does some amazing art. And some of you may also have seen this wonderful sketch that we have that is the Flight Club logo. This was actually drawn by him. So huge thank you to him, and very excited to have him on the show tonight. João, do you want to tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, I'm very grateful to be here. So it's a pleasure to be here with you, talking about flight levels. And actually, I'm an agile coach at Magazine Luiza, or Magalu, as we are gonna see on our presentation. And I'm very excited to flow through this drawing that you are seeing now, with you telling a little bit more about our history and our digital transformation and flight levels. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Well, welcome very much to both of you. Last thing I want to mention before we get into some of the conversations, I just want to say a couple of shout outs to a few people on the channel. I see folks joining from all over. We've got Nuremberg, we've got Michelle joining us from Berlin, a couple of folks from Brazil, all over Germany, Seattle. Wow, lots and lots of different places. So very excited to have all of you here. And just a quick reminder, we'll be taking questions as we go. Of course, we have some topics planned and we're going to chat about a few things. But please shout in the chat if there's anything that you would like to know as we go. We will have some time to make sure that we take questions at the end, but it's also nice to weave a few in as we go as well. So fire away in the chat. Let us know what's resonating with you, what do you like, and anything that you would like us to expand on further. And I see some more. Portugal, Porto, and Cologne. Excellent. Bonn. Wow. We have quite an international crowd. This is very cool. Awesome. So, shall we get started? Our topic this evening. Yeah?
Sure.
We're talking about digital transformation and flight levels and the story of exponential growth at Magazine Luiza in Brazil. So maybe just to kick us off, for those of us who've not heard so much about Magalu, or maybe don't know about the company because maybe we don't live in one of the areas where it operates, can you guys tell us just a little bit about the company? What does it do? This kind of a thing.
Yeah, sure. So Magazine Luiza, we have been changing the name to Magalu, right? Because it's easier to pronounce and because when we talk to people outside of Brazil, they always think, oh, what kind of magazine is that? No, it's not a magazine. Actually, it's a retail company where it's focused on selling, for example, TVs, electronics, and washing machines, and even right now, beers and everything, right? So it's not a magazine. And that's the reason why we're using the name Magalu. But talking about the story of the company has been was founded 63 years ago in Franca, the countryside of Brazil, and since then the company has been evolving a lot, right? And I would say that over the 90s, a new CEO took over, and she brought some practice very, very similar to Agile practice, even before the Agile manifesto. She thinks that she's still there, but she's part of the board of directors now, and she thinks the company is a kind of an alive thing, right? It's an organic thing, and she believes in transparency and autonomy and not being afraid of failing. And she was in the vanguard, I would say, bringing lots of new things into the company. And for me, it was impressive because when I think about like a retail company, usually they're very traditional, right? And having a case like that in Brazil, in the countryside, and expand it to other other parts of Brazil, it's fun, right? And to see. And we have a picture here. Is the company started to have the website, like the e-commerce, in 1999, and at that time it was like a traditional retail company with an IT department. But after that, things started to change, and we started this digital transformation.
Cool. So you guys have been obviously on quite a bit of a journey, and I've heard little bits and pieces in the preparation. But maybe you can take us through a little bit of, what's kind of been the journey with the digital transformation. How did it go? What kind of things were happening? Henrique, you've been how many years now at the company?
Yeah, 3 years.
3 years. So I'm sure you've seen quite a few things in this time. Yeah. Tell us a bit about what's been up.
Yeah, I think you can see some hills here, right? João has done these awesome drawings there. I would say the one milestone was in 2011 when the company realized that, okay, our traditional IT department is not being able to deliver all the things that we want in the pace that the market needs, right? And then the company started a separate department, research and department, that were totally separate, not using the traditional processes. And that department is like two guys trying to use like some agile methods, and they start to deliver like new products in 3 months. And it was amazing. 2011 was a good milestone for the company. And then those guys started to get more responsibilities, more relevance into the company, and then they took over the e-commerce. And it was in 2014. And then 1 year afterwards, in 2015, they took over the physical stores to take care of all the systems, right? Some legacy systems too. And the part in which I started working with the company, it was in 2017. Like I decided to quit Spotify and I actually was about to move to Boston, And then I decided, okay, I'm moving to Boston. Let me stop and be agile. I'm gonna move to Brazil. And then I decided to move back to Brazil. I had all my things into boxes, right? So, and then I decided to join this digital transformation thing, because when I took a look at my career, I've been part of lots of digital and tech companies like Spotify, Yahoo, startups. But digital transformation, what is that? Like, I've never been part of this. And I felt they have a very nice, interesting story, right? And I just want to be part of that. And in 2017, I would say one of the main challenges here was the company had this big annual plannings, right? You have to plan everything in January, and in December, you're going to deliver that. It was super, super hard. But I had other things to take a look too. They had projects, and they have the output was very focused into outputs. Okay, if you deliver the project, maybe you can get some bonus. If you don't deliver on time, you're not going to get your bonus. And oh my God, this is hard too. And we had other fights too to pick. And then I think the first one that I decided to take was the to have like a more focused, the mindset focused on the outcomes, not the output. And in 2018, we managed to have, it's not myself alone, right? It's a lot of people together thinking about it. I'm just like poking the system, trying to influence people. And then the company decided to get into this, okay, let's think about NPS. Let's think about monthly active users. Let's think about contact rate. And then I think 2018 was a good, when you take a look at the story, it was a big change, right? And, actually one thing that's interesting, when you think about flight levels, I would say 2016, it was an interesting year in which the company started to have a different way of managing the company. They have like some goals for the entire company, but it was very, very good, right? The entire company had the same, the transparency, they could see the goals and everything, but they have the downside, like focusing on projects, focusing annual planning. But when it comes to the level 3 of the flight level, the strategy, it was very good. The entire company knew the strategy. They could talk the same things. For me, it was a good sign. We just need to adapt parts of this. And in 2018, we did that, right? But one thing that was hard in 2019, after that, was when it comes to the WIP. The company had this big WIP in a portfolio level, and having these big annual plannings too. And after that, I think I can took over to give it to João to talk about what happened afterwards. I started to talk to Klaus, and I talked to João. We managed to bring João back to Brazil. Said, "Hey man, come to Brazil again. It's sunny here."
I was in Portugal at this time, and Henrique invited me to return to Brazil, and it was very funny because he was trying to convince the leadership to reduce the batch of planning, the focusing outcomes, the WIP limits. And in the week I arrived at Magalu, we received the wizard's visit. So Klaus Leopold was there. It was very excited to us. I have some pictures here to show you from this visit. And Klaus played this funny game, the paper shipbuilding factory. I don't know how do you call it, but
the shipbuilding,
it's very funny and very interesting to see our leadership experiencing a lot of things about WIP limitation and what's to be a bottleneck. How the bottlenecks act on the systems, the importance of planning in small bets. So I guess this exercise was very important to everything we harvest in the following steps. So here these pictures are from our leadership being trained by Klaus. Did you remember Klaus these times?
Yeah, sure. It was really cool. I mean, it's always cool to do this exercise it was the board of directors, and it was really like top management was in the room. And it's really cool to do an exercise like this with these people. I mean, one might think, okay, that's not so good if you build paper ships with with your leadership team, but I guess there's quite a lot of learnings in there, and these are usually very smart people, so they can connect the dots, what this means for their world. Yeah, I can totally remember it. It was really cool.
I have more pictures from that visit, but it is Klaus eating barbecue and coxinha with us, so I'm not going to show this here. So afterwards, if you want to see that, I can show you. Yeah, caipirinha. Yeah, it's good. It's the best. It's the good part.
That sounds like lots of fun.
Yeah. Since then, we started to support the leadership to plan on small batches, and I remember a lot of people asking for the Agile Code teams to support. We want to talk about flight levels. Can you talk about flight levels on our meetings? What are the ceremonies of the flight levels? What are the meetings we have to do on flight levels? So a lot of people trying to understand what the flight levels means, and a lot of misconception, because we are very used to use frameworks, to use methodologies, but a thinking model is really different. So we after the Klaus visit, we're trying to support people, support the leadership on planning into small batches and understanding what is behind the flight levels thinking model. So another important thing is, officially, we migrated from yearly planning to 4 months period of planning. I guess Henrique was very funny at this time. I'm very happy at this time because, so instead of one planning at the beginning of the year, we started to have 3 periods of planning. It's a big change for a company like Magalu, a very old company and huge with many people. So it's a significant changing for us. But we did not have significant flight levels experiments until the pandemic started. So that's the another land here, the lens of chaos. Okay. Just to give you some context, we were trying to understand and to share our understand about flight levels when COVID-19 knocked at our doors. And in Brazil, we were seeing tons of people dying everywhere. So we received the news from Italy, received the news from Spain, and we were living here a very crazy social and political crisis. So we were thinking about, a pandemic in that moment is not going to be good. And it happened. And I remember in beginning of March, the people were crazy wondering about the future. So the uncertainty level increased like a hell. We had to close all of your physical stores, about 1,000 physical stores were closed in the entire country. And we needed to act fast because a lot of people could be fired because of the crisis that was coming. So it was really serious. It was the context we were living when COVID knocked at our door. So, but we are very lucky at Magalu. We have a very good strategic team, and they acted very, very fast, and they decided to work on 9 fronts, 9 strategical fronts. And because of all digital transformation we had, our tech team was really strong to support everything that was coming to be developed. It's very interesting because we never had worked remotely, and we adapted very first to work remotely. So it makes us more fast on responding the business. It was very exciting, but So what I'm talking about, flight level 3 was okay because we had a very cool and very good strategical direction. Execution, okay, we adapted and we are ready to go, but we are huge, as I told you. So a lot of dependencies, a lot of things to coordinate to deliver well. And at that point, the Agile core team started to support the flight level 2 to organize it, to make it happen, because it's going to be hard to deliver everything in the time we had to deliver without a good coordination. And how we did it, it's funny because I'm always saying 3 levels and 4 activities, 3 levels and 4 activities to everyone. What is flight level? 3 levels and 4 activities. And what we did, 4 activities in the flight level 2. That was our, and each agile coach pick one of that fronts, that strategical fronts, and they started to do the 4 activities. And I'm going to show you a little bit more about how we did it. So here are the 4 activities: visualize, create focus, establish agile interactions, and measure progress. So to visualize, we created some boards, so as usual. And as I told you, we are very lucky and we have good agile codes on coding. So they coded this tool here, as you can see, called Dandelion. Dandelion show us all the dependence of an initiative and what is blocked and what is not blocked. You can see it on an image like this one. It's a good thing to bring to the conversations, so you can take some decisions just look into this picture. So we acted very fast. I didn't remember how many sprints we used to deliver that, but it was very fast. So he reacted very fast. Our multifunctional agile code team was able to support the company very fast. So we could visualize the situation. Here is a little bit more close. And here, so the goals were crystal clear to everyone. And the time to deliver as well. Here is just an image of the panel we used to show the 9 initiatives. Here you can see 10 initiatives because the last of them is security that we supported as well. So 9 plus security. And on this panel, we could see the evolution of each front of strategical front. The goals were crystal clear. Everyone knew the time to deliver, 90 days, 3 months. And another thing that was really clear to everyone was the cost of delay. We always talk about cost of delay, but at this time, the cost of delay was, if we don't deliver these stuffs in 3 months, people could be fired because we need this to overcome this big wave. So, yeah.
Cool.
Those.
Just wanted to jump in quickly because we're getting a bunch of questions in the chat. So maybe we want to, Klaus, if you're ready with the first question.
The question is, what is the first question? What do you think?
Whichever one you prefer.
Yeah. So there are some questions. So maybe, you already talked about it a little bit, but in terms of the flow, I guess it would make sense to drop in the question of Christoph Meyer. So the question was, after the simulation with Klaus and the leadership team, what were your next steps specifically? So did you draw this flight levels architecture, or what did you do actually?
Yeah, I remember we seated in a room and tried to map the 3 levels on our architecture mode. So we try to create an architecture to understand the flight items and flight routes, and it's a messy because it's a huge company. We have a lot of starting and ending points. We have a lot of value chains. So it was not very easy to put it on the paper. I remember I sent an email to Klaus asking, okay, we have a lot of I have many steps here and we don't know where to start. And Klaus told me, okay, try to understand, try to find a value chain that you can see. Just analyze that you are watching the things flowing there, and start by there, and afterwards it will be goes to the other things that will appear to you. It's not easy. It's because of that I say that we started to support the leadership on understanding flight levels, but we were still trying to understand. Again, thinking model don't tell you the meetings you have to use. So it's easier. It's so much easier when you have something telling you what to do. And the thinking model tells you to think and to watch your system and try the best thing for your system. And it's not easy. So the first thing we tried is to try to map, but we failed. We didn't realize that.
Yeah, maybe to add, one thing that I remember is after the Klaus session, people started to understand the importance of the level 2. Because the level 3 was clear, right? The strategy. And the teams, they do have their boards, they have their meetings and everything. But the level 2 is missing. Oh, guys. And there it was the messy part to generate value, right? And then I remember after that, lots of flight level 2 boards started to emerge. But we, as agile coaches, we start to remember, guys, but the board won't be delivering the value. You have to have interactions around that. You have to create some meetings. And there's specific ways of running that meeting. And, everyone needs to go there. No, not everyone. Maybe some representatives from each part. Yeah. So that was a specific thing that I remember.
Yeah, but I think that's something what we also see very, very often. So there is something like strategy in place, and teams are working, but there's a huge void in between somehow. So I think that's one of the things what we try to do with flight levels, to somehow bridge this gap between strategy and doing the real work actually. So you mentioned that flight level 3, you were doing some stuff on flight level 3. So I just collected, I guess, 2 or 3 questions regarding the flight level 3. If I can just drop them in, and we also need to somehow balance it out because you're somehow in the middle of your story. But let's try to answer 1 or 2 questions regarding the flight level 3. So Nuno is asking for the flight level 3, what are the items, the flight items on the flight level 3, and how do you visualize them? And how often do you discuss those items? So what are the items? How often do you discuss it? And there's another question, I can just add it to this one, from Cindy, and she's asking, okay, who's actually attending the flight level 3 meetings? So what is on the flight level 3 and how are you operating it?
Would you like to answer that?
It's when it comes to the entire company, just to give you some perspective, it's more than 35,000 employees. And we do have a system, an application in which we can see all the objectives, we can see all the key results, and we can see all the initiatives that we are trying to do in order to achieve these key results. So this is the items that we have in this level 3, I would say. And we do have some meetings around that. We have one, it's called like the monthly results meetings, trying to do the real-time translation here. And every month, all the leaders, they get together and we discuss around the items. What are the items that are blocked? What items are underperforming? Or who needs help from each other parts of the org? is there something that we need to kill or not? Or is that's something new that we need to start doing now? But this is like a big event, right? Leaders from the entire part of the org. But for example, if you are involved in a specific key result, you do have to have your own meetings, right? If you, for example, I'm taking care of one specific key result, I should have more often interactions, right? Maybe weekly to make things move on, right? And they do have other meetings as well. For example, the quarterly results meeting, and they take a look at this specific software. But in our case, because Magalu, it's like, just to give a perspective, it's like logistics, physical stores, and people that are taking care of the answering the calls from the customers. And we do have the technology and product side. And when we take a look at these boards that João is showing here, they are more spread throughout the technology and products area. And what we have been doing is trying to move this to the entire company, to think about the flow. Because when it comes to visualization, I think the company is good. It's transparent. People can see, but sometimes they are not seeing the flow. They can't see the bottleneck specifically. They can't see the queues. And as a lab, we are research and development. We are trying to bring innovation, but we are trying to bring a new culture, a new ways of working for the entire company.
Yeah. I imagine that a lot of this stuff, I mean, from my experience of it, is that the sort of underlying cultural inertia or the sort of the normal patterns of behavior are one of the hardest things to try to shift, because especially in a company that's already been quite successful, as most companies that are, doing something like Magazine Luiza, like you've been successful for a while, there's a lot of things that are working. And so there's a lot of momentum behind those things that wants to kind of continue happening. And so you're saying, well, we want to do something a little bit differently, but people are saying, but this stuff was working already before, or we know this from the past, and this kind of thing. So it's definitely interesting to see how the challenges of trying to sort of turn a moving ship, if you will. It's that kind of an approach. I want to change the topic.
The other question,
Sure.
The question about who is attending the flight level 3 things.
Yeah.
It's about the leadership and some people that have the knowledge that to discuss something. So, but it's mainly the leadership now.
Okay, and some representatives. Okay, cool.
Cool. So I wanted to talk about something else that we discussed a little bit in our preparation sessions. You were telling me about, I was imagining for sure that just like a lot of other companies, COVID has obviously affected things. And you touched on it a little bit earlier. But you were telling me a couple of stories in our preparations about some of the new products that you've launched as a result of this. Maybe Henrique, or João, you can tell us a little bit of detail about, what was that experience like, and how did some of the prep work that you'd done sort of impact your ability to be responsive in that situation?
Yeah. Well, actually, it was very, very interesting because the company has been kind of creating these muscles, right? To be more digital, right? To become a platform, to become an ecosystem. And once COVID hit us, it was an interesting moment because remember, we had annual plannings, and then suddenly we have implemented this 4-month period of plannings. And then when COVID came, we said, oh guys, no, now we have to do pretty much like weekly or daily plannings. And then we had projects that we were thinking, oh, maybe we can do it until the end of the year. And then we managed to do it in 5 days and 2 weeks. It was crazy. Like it's like a tribal behavior, right? When everyone have a common enemy, people start to act together to become even more cross-functional. The company was very transparent and collaborative, but become even more. And a specific example that I can show you guys is something that we call Parceiro Magalu. It's like a Magalu partner. We used to have a product in which like a person, for example, Cliff, could go into our website and create a specific shop for like Cliff's shop. And you could sell something for your friends and you get a fee for each purchase that each sale, right? And we managed to create that for companies because in Brazil we have lots of small businesses that they are not digital, right? They have their door closed, and they had like zero like revenue, no profits at all, and they were about to get to the bankruptcy, right? And then we had tons of them getting into our platform, and they could sell their stuff using our platform and deliver things. So, and we have people like saying, oh, now I could have like 40% of my revenue back. And it was amazing. Like, it's something that the company did like in a couple of days, like maybe most like 2 weeks. And it has like impact for the company and for the others too. So
it was like all the company, the entire company fighting to don't have anyone being fired. So it's sure, because it's a very different kind of pressure, because it's not a pressure that comes from business or due dates or things like that. It's a social pressure, and I guess it helped us to sustain the focus and to be creative to get those solutions from the hat.
Yeah.
I found it amazing how a crisis, I mean, I think back, Henrique, when we were at Spotify, I remember a couple of times when we were working in I/O, you'd have some kind of an incident or an outage or something, and usually that triggers a really quite significant set of focus for the organization on one specific problem. And I think that's something that's quite profound, because you see, we were reflecting on this with Troy the other day when we did the recording with him, and he was saying how he's seen whole companies, entire banks change their focus, and suddenly they're super agile. And it's not like they're doing something magical that they couldn't have done before. It's just that they didn't, because somehow the circumstances didn't seem to warrant it. And so when this emergency happens, somehow you can focus. And I think a little bit of what we're trying to talk about when we say create focus, as one of the activities, that's kind of what we're talking about. Maybe not to that extreme all the time, because only one thing is probably not the most important, but certainly if we can focus on a few less things, somehow they move a lot faster. And it's pretty cool.
Something very interesting that we used to have at Spotify in a portfolio level. We had like the now, next, and later, and the company could, okay, let's take a look at now. And usually we have just a few things there, right, Cliff? Maybe 10 things, like this is the now, let's launch big in Japan, this is super important, everyone, let's collaborate. And if you are on the initiative number 5, don't interrupt the guys on the level on the 1, right? And if you are one, you can ask for help and you're gonna get this help. So, and we did the same at Magalu this year in January. We managed to have like portfolio level, now, next, later, and so on. Yeah. But not 10 items, right? The WIP wasn't so low here, specifically because that's something interesting. Like, it's the biggest company I've ever worked for. Like at Spotify, we had like around 2,000 people, 2,000 more, right? Here is 35,000 people. Yeah. So it's difficult to have a super tiny backlog, and it's more. But once we had this COVID thing, the outbreak, the company managed to have just a few, because, this is the things that are going to move the needle, and let's make it happen. So, having some kind of pressure, it was very interesting.
Yeah, cool.
I'm imagining now that in a few weeks you're going to publish maybe the Magalu model instead of the Spotify model, and start a whole new revolution.
Please copy the Magalu model.
You guys instead.
You're going to create the Magalu's framework to everyone.
Yeah.
I'm joking. It's not true.
Of course, I'm totally joking. But I mean, having talked about a lot of this stuff in the past, like I think it really is quite cool for people to be able to take inspiration from what other companies are doing, because you have folks like yourselves that have gone a bit further on the journey than some people, and maybe there's others who are just starting out, and that helps them to find some ways and say, we can't really deal with things if we don't have the tools to be able to deal with the situation. And so you guys have tried a few things and learned a few things along the way. So that actually brings us quite nicely to the next set of questions. So we have 2 questions from the folks on the live stream. I'm probably going to get the names wrong, but Manuela Barth, I think, if this is how you pronounce your name. If not, please send me a voice recording and I will learn how to pronounce these names correctly. But Manuela,
that's actually a German name, so Manuela. That sounds... You were quite good.
Not too bad, though.
Yeah, it's quite good.
Cool. So we will see. So the two questions are from Manuela, and I think it's Cristiano. Manuela is asking, what were your first challenges when using flight levels or trying out flight levels? And Cristiano's question is sort of adding a little bit to this as well and saying, what is or was the most difficult challenge during your journey so far, and how did you overcome it, or what are you planning to do in order to overcome it?
The first challenge, I guess, was to understand on COVID-19, on the COVID-19 situation, because before COVID-19, we were just playing with flight levels. To understand what we can do first. So we have a lot of, we have 4 activities in 3 levels, but which level I should start? So we focused on the value and on the leverage change, where you can change the lever and make more and help the company better. So to find this leverage level was the first challenge we had. So we found that acting on flight level 2 was we would get better leverage. So yeah, I guess it's the first. And the most difficult one, I'm going to use this to pass through the presentation, is to have agile interactions. Because, a lot of people, a lot of interactions are happening, and it's very good to have boards everywhere. It's very good to have a good sense of focus, but only these don't change the game, but people do. So how can we connect people? And we learned a lot of things. So we started by created we acted in three kind of agile interactions. In some of the fronts, we didn't have any interaction, so it's easy. When you don't have any interactions, just create one to put people together and see what happens. So the one that's going to change the game will be together there, and they will change the game. But in many cases, we already have some agile interactions. So we didn't change these interactions. It was like status reporting, checkpoint meetings, a lot of stuff like that. So we just rephrasing that meetings a little bit to put people together and to ensure that everyone was talking about the problems and trying to solve the same problem. But we didn't change the ceremony, and we use the context in our favor. So, and the other type of agile interactions, in a very few cases, we understood that only a meeting among leadership to raise risks and take some actions was enough. So it was not very cross initiatives. So we just created a risk review, because risk is a good word to use with the leadership. So we just created risk reviews to ensure that everyone was communicating decisions. And it was very challenging because we are huge, a lot of people, and we are remote. So trying to manage these things was very challenging. At this time, we understood that there was no one-fits-all solution. So it's really nice. I really love this kind of conclusion, because when you adopt a framework, when you adopt a methodology, you have everything that you have to do. The methodology tells you what you have to do, and the thinking model no. So you can have a lot of things for the same purpose, and it's okay. So it's what we had at this time. And another thing that we must respect and understand our context. The context is not a monster that we have to fight with. So, but it's something that we want to use in our favor to leverage it. No? So I guess these are the challenge we face at that time.
Yeah, maybe I add something. It's a challenge to me is like, are we solving the actual problem or are we dealing with the side effects of a problem? And sometimes we have agility to deal with the side effects. For example, one of my biggest challenges was like, okay, having this annual planning, everything that I'm going to do here as a director of organizational agility is like solving the side effects. Because let me solve and you have to be very patient. When you're talking about like digital transformation, take a look, like 63 years. I've been here for 3 years. I have done almost nothing, right? Compared to the story of the company. So and I have a legacy and I have to respect the legacy. I have to respect the people. So sometimes I have to sow some seeds, plant some seeds, wait. And okay, this thing I'm going to be flourishing in 2 years or maybe 3. So I have to wait. And for me, this is a big challenge. And another one was when it comes to when we map the flight routes. Sometimes we see and we realize, okay, we're not optimized for the flow, right? We're optimized for maybe the areas or for the applications. And as a coach, you can't like, oh, let me do a reorg here and boom. No, you can. You have to influence people. You have to talk to a couple of directors and help them to have some kind of awareness to say, oh, maybe we should organize around the flow, right? And then sometimes some people, they are very easy to influence, some of them not. But that's the part of the transformation, right?
Yeah, that's cool.
Sure.
I think that there's one question which actually fits totally to what you just said. So I think you just gave the answer. So just to be sure. So but Patricia, I don't know if I pronounce it correctly, is asking, have you already connected the 3 levels or are you still in a journey to it? So you were just talking about flight routes, right? So the point of flight routes is to somehow route the work items across all the levels, right? So how far are you with this currently?
I guess we got it because we could connect.
Cool, so it's done. It's working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
Okay,
that.
cool.
It's that easy, huh? No,
It's that easy. Yeah, but maybe, I mean, as the answer to the question, it's maybe that easy because Henrique was just explaining it before. So I would just wanted to drop it in. So when we think about connecting the systems together, it has a lot to do with the flight routes, like how is work flying across your organization. Yeah, cool. But Cliff, I think you found another question, right?
Yes. So probably one of our favorite topics that I guess kind of kickstarted some of the thinking around flight levels. It's certainly one of the key things we try to address. But there's a couple of questions, one from Lucio and one from, I think it's Jorge, or I'm guessing, or could be George, but I guess it depends on where you come from. Yeah, so Lucio is asking what happened with the dependencies, specifically around level 2, you know, now that the planning is speeding up and everything is getting faster, what's happening in this space? And then Jorge is also asking a couple of things around dependencies and communication gaps and how you're handling this. So maybe you can talk a little bit about, you know, how are you managing that at level 2?
We don't have dependencies here.
Sure. It's easy like this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just 23,000 people or so, right? So
yeah,
no,
exactly.
We don't need dependencies.
No, yeah.
Everybody's working on the same task all the time.
Yeah, everyone, just one product.
Yeah, and
we have tons of them. Yeah, go ahead, João.
we will always have dependence, and I guess the tricky part here is don't try so much to kill them, but to manage them. So what we did, we created agile interactions around the cross situations and tried to evidence the dependencies and put people there. So the people there knows what they have to do. We have a good tech team, so they know how to solve the problems there. So we just created the opportunity to have them together looking to the dependence. So I guess is the simplest way. I know it's a very simple answer, but I know it's the most important thing we did to put people together around the dependence and to talk about dependence, to don't put things hidden. So, yeah, that's my answer, I think.
Cool. So there was one more question from Pedro, who I just wanted to answer quickly before we go into the last set of questions that I have for these two wonderful guests. So Pedro is asking, he says, where can I find more materials about the flight levels? I've already read the book by Klaus. So there's a couple of things that I can tell you about and a few things that I can't quite yet tell you about, but I can tell you to stay tuned. So one of the things that I can recommend is to check out our website, flightlevels.io. You can have a look there, and we offer several different workshops and some materials to be able to connect folks who are going on the journey. We will also working on some other video content, and we'll have some things available in the next couple of weeks that we can talk about. And of course, just to kind of plug it a little bit, but part of what's connected to our workshops is that we also create a community of folks. So we have a few hundred people on our community who can join in, and there's conversations there. We have a lean coffee every couple of weeks. People are posting articles, questions, discussions, that kind of a thing. Because what we're trying to create with the Academy is not just a place where you kind of come and do one workshop, although that is sometimes an aspect of the learning journey. We want to make sure that folks have a place to connect. So Flight Club is part of that. The community is part of that. The other video content that we put out is part of that. We have several blog posts and so on as well. So yeah. One of the easiest things to do also is jump onto Twitter and have a chat. It's not just Klaus and myself. There are all kinds of wonderful people in the guides community and folks who are using flight levels. Have a chat with us and talk about different things. It's really wonderful just to hear what folks are doing. Yeah, so please hit us up on Twitter. Is probably the easiest, although we are, of course, also on LinkedIn. So,
if you're
João, you can say something.
If you're a Portuguese spoken, we have two Telegrams community. Lusophone one for who speaks Portuguese around the world, and we have a Brazilian one as well. So if you want to join us as well, it's going to be a pleasure.
Cool. Yeah, so maybe we can. I don't know how Telegram works, but maybe we can drop it somewhere into the comments so that people have the link.
Yeah, cool. I'm going to do that. I'm going to try to find it and do that after. Yeah,
it's probably also a good idea. You can contact any of us via LinkedIn or Twitter, as I say, and have a chat with us there, and we can hook you up and so on. So awesome, cool. So there was one more thing I wanted to talk about a little bit before we go. So of course we said that Magalu has been very successful and had a lot of success in many different ways. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit about what are the outcomes that you've had and the results of all of this hard work that you've been doing.
Well, just to finish that, so Henrique will tell us a little bit more about the numbers and our new horizons here. So, Henrique, can you start talking about the numbers?
Yeah.
Just he loves to talk about the numbers. So
numbers is always good.
Numbers good. Yeah, I think a disclaimer is this is not like the results of the flight levels, right? It's the result of the entire company working together for a long period of time.
Sure.
Yeah. But we can see that the flight levels has contributed a lot to have the people thinking about having the right focus at the right time. And when we think about the e-commerce, like as we used to be like a traditional retailer and now becoming a platform, so you can see the results like the second quarter of this year, we have this growth like 182%. So it's great, right?
That's insane.
And we have been creating, and we have been creating an ecosystem. We have been acquiring lots of companies from different parts of Brazil, right? And things related to logistics. And currently we deliver in 24 hours, like 35% of our items. You can buy it and boom, it's going to be delivered in the first day, the same day, right? And we have like financial services and so on. And here are some financial highlights. You can take a look. But I think it's nice to bring some numbers just to show because sometimes people think like, oh, agility is something super nice. Woo, but okay, what are the results? And the company needs to bring results, right? And that's the reason we are here.
Yeah.
Wow, this is very impressive. I had seen some of the numbers in my Googling around, but when you see it in a chart like that, it's pretty powerful. It reminds me of some of the times at Spotify, and yeah, you just wow, every time something's going, it's just like
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy. Yeah, congratulations on a job really well done, and thank you so much for
Awesome.
spending the time sharing the story with us.
Uh,
Before we go, sorry, João, were you going to add something?
no, it's just say that we are starting a new quarter now, and I guess we learned a lot with this journey, with all that we could show here. But again, now we have a clear goal to achieve on this new quarter and a lot of opportunities to improve. But we still have a pandemic outside. The pandemic is not ending in Brazil. So we are still living an uncertain moment in our country. The good news that now we know how to deal with the situations, and the numbers show that to us. So we did a great job on dealing with the situations, and I guess you are more prepared to the future.
Yeah. Henrique.
yeah, ready to face this thing. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. So before we go, and I just want to talk about one or two things, and then I've got one last question. I just want to get some tips from you guys. But I just want to remind everybody again, if you've enjoyed the show, please hit the subscribe button. It's just below the video on YouTube. And if you hit the bell that's next to it, you will also get announcements and notifications, not only about this streaming, but also the other content that we post on this channel as well. And Klaus has put up a nice little subscribe button as well. It looks very much like that on your screen. Of course, we also have a meetup group. For those of you who are maybe prefer a calendar announcement and all of this kind of more traditional stuff, I pasted in the chat channel right now. But share it with your friends. As I said, the first rule of Flight Club is to please talk as much as possible about Flight Club. So tell your friends, tell your family. I know sometimes, quite often, my parents are supporting, so they're probably watching in my hometown right now. And I quite like this. There's lots of people who are interested in this, and they can support either because they like what we're doing, or because maybe they're interested in learning some things. And hopefully this is helpful for everyone. Cool. So before we disappear, I want to ask one question to each of you. If you could basically do one thing differently, given the journey that you've been on, what thing would you say is like the one tip or the one takeaway that you would offer to those who are listening on the internet this evening?
That's a good one.
Yeah. For me, would be start with the sea level, like, because I like the Klaus says that as well, right? If I could have just one agile team in the company, it would be the C-level team, the leadership team, because people follow them. They are saying, like, they look at their behaviors and they follow. So for example, when you have the C-level talking about, João has been seeing that, right? The CTO, he talks about the
as well.
Yeah, we have all hands and we talk about WIP, we talk about bottlenecks, we start like start finishing. And so having the leaders talking about it, it's a good way to spread the good vibes and do it.
Yeah. It was my answer as well. I guess when I guess when we put them in the same boat, everything is different because we are not fighting against something that has the power. So the power is fighting with us on the same direction, and it helped us a lot at Magalu to have them in the same boat that we are.
I like this picture.
That's very
Not
cool.
Fighting against it, but fighting with us. That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to all of us. And thank you to everyone on the live stream for the wonderful questions. If we didn't get a chance to answer your questions, sorry about that. If you would like to still get an answer, I will paste the links for us on Twitter, and you can jump on there and ask some questions and have some further discussion. So share with your friends, tell them about your awesome experience. And thank you so much to Henrique and João for joining us. Do you guys want to shout out to anyone or say how's it before we go?
Thank you very much. I'm really glad to be here. And It was very
Awesome.
funny.
Cool.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah, thanks for everyone, and thanks for having me here. And it's nice to be getting together again with Cliff and Klaus, all those super nice, beautiful, and kind and humble guys. So yeah, a pleasure to be here.
We didn't get to tell the story about the Heftemasse, but maybe we save that for another episode.
Yeah, next chapter. Half the massa. It's important.
Awesome.
Okay.
Cool. Well, from my side, thank you very much for coming, and we'll see you all again next time. Over to you, Klaus. Anything from your side?
Thank you so much. I mean, there's so many thank yous, but yeah, that's it. Really nice that you shared your story. And I also like that we see not only a story, we could also see some numbers. And whenever we see numbers, I guess it's a quite convincing argument that this whole business agility is not about hugging trees. It's about business in the end. And yeah, I like it a lot, actually. Thank you so much for being here, and to everyone, goodbye.
Bye-bye.